Hi and welcome to Stella's Mezza. On today's episode, I'll show you how to make tiramisu. Now this is an Italian dessert that is layered and coffee flavored. To begin, you will need to have some ladyfingers. These are Italian biscuits. They're also called savoiardi and they're crunchy. You're going to need, depending on the size of pan you use, 2 to 3 packs of these. You will need some egg yolks, some granulated sugar, some masala wine. Now this is optional. You can use this or you can use pure almond flavor if you do not want to use alcohol in the recipe. Some pure vanilla extract. I'm using here some espresso coffee that is freshly brewed. You'll also need some heavy whipping cream, some mascarpone cheese. Now this is an Italian version of cream cheese, and you want that at room temperature. You'll also be using some unsweetened cocoa powder and some good quality chocolate that you've grated. That's optional. I use that to just decorate my tiramisu. Now, as far as equipment needs, you'll be using an electric mixer, a fine mesh sifter, a spatula, and a whisk. Now, if you could do this by hand, but it's going to take a long time, so it's easier to just use an electric mixer. Now, in that bowl, I have my egg yolks that I'm adding some sugar to. Now, this is not a very sweet dessert, so I'll be using a tablespoon of sugar here and there, but it's not very sweet. It is good, but it's not very sweet. So what you want to do first is whisk the egg yolks and the sugar until it's nice and lemony yellow and thick like you see over there. Now, what I'm doing, the dessert, traditionally, they use just raw egg yolks, but I'm scared of salmonella poisoning. So for that reason, I'm heating up those egg yolks over a water bath. In that pot there, I have about 2 inches of water, and I'm sitting my egg yolks and sugar mixture in a heat-proof bowl, sitting over that pan, but I'm making sure the bottom of it is not touching the surface of the water. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm adding my masala wine, and if you don't want to use alcohol, you can skip this. And to that masala wine, I'm going to add around 2 to 3 drops of pure almond extract. Now, don't be heavy-handed with the almond extract because it has a strong flavor to it. You just want to give it that slight scent of almond flavoring, but you don't want to put too much of it, okay? So I'm just adding around 2 or 3 drops of that into that masala wine, and I'm going to put that into that egg yolk and sugar mixture. And you want to keep stirring it, because you don't want it to start cooking. Remember, those are eggs. You don't want it to start cooking. So keep stirring it the whole time. And you also want to use your spatula to scrape the sides of the bowl just to make sure everything's nicely combined. Now, when it's done, it should be nice and thick like this. And when you lift the spoon up, the egg yolk should drop back into the bowl in a ribbon form. You see that at the bottom? And it should coat your spoon. Look at that, thick and creamy. All right. Now, you want to take a cling foil piece of wrap and cover that and let it cool down in the refrigerator. In the meantime, we're going to take our heavy whipping cream and add about 2 tablespoonfuls of granulated sugar. And then we're going to whip that into stiff peaks. Now, this is what will give our tiramisu that nice, airy texture, the cream. Now, the cream together, it's called a sabayon. And I hope I'm pronouncing it right. So, you see that? Nice stiff peaks are formed in that whipped cream. If you lift the beaters up, that peak is going to stand straight on the beater. So what we're going to do is we're going to combine those egg yolks that we heated up earlier. We're going to combine it with the mascarpone cheese that's at room temperature and this heavy whipping cream. Now, the first thing I will do is I will take about 1/4 cup of that whipped cream and I'm going to put it into the egg yolk mixture. The reason for doing this is to lighten up the egg yolk mixture before I mix it or combine it with that heavy whipping cream or that whipped cream. So you just want to go gently. You see what I'm doing? I'm trying to lighten it up. You don't want to deflate that whipping cream. Just combine it well. Make sure you scrape the sides of the bowl and make sure everything's nicely mixed. You see that? It's a little bit lighter than it was before. All right. So I'm going to take my bowl with the whipped cream and I'm just going to pour that in there. Now you want to fold this mixture into the whipping cream. You want to fold the egg yolk mixture into the whipping cream. And what you do is you go to the bottom of the mixture and kind of flip it over gently, and then cut through the middle and flip it over again. And I'll show you here shortly what I'm talking about. I like to get everything. Don't like to waste food. See that? Bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom, top. And then I'm going to start going through the center. Bottom, top, center. Just like that. You want to go carefully and gently. You don't want to deflate the wispiness of that whipping cream. Now I'm going to start adding my mascarpone cheese, and it needs to be at room temperature. It's going to make this step very difficult to combine everything together. Just add it into the bowl a little at a time. Now, mascarpone cheese is a lighter version of the American cream cheese as we know it. It's nice and it has a little bit of sweetness to it, natural sweetness, no added sugar. And sometimes you'll find it in the stores with some coffee added to it. I just use plain mascarpone cheese. I did not buy the one with the coffee added to it because I will be using coffee down the line to assemble this dessert. Now, after you folded everything in nicely and evenly, it should look like this, just like a cloud. It's beautiful. I mean, I could eat that the way it is right there, but I will not. We need to put this dessert together. Now, I have two baking dishes over here. I have a 9x13 dish, which is on your right, and I have a smaller dish. Now, you can assemble your tiramisu in the smaller bowl. I'm using the 9x13 that's to the right of the screen. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that espresso, and I'm going to add some Marsala wine into it, and then about 2 tablespoonfuls of granulated sugar, and a little bit of that vanilla extract, about a tablespoonful of it. And make sure you use a pure vanilla extract because that makes a world of difference in the outcome of your dessert or whatever it is you're cooking. I always say that imitation might do the job, but it will not taste the same. So you want to give it a good stir, make sure everything's nicely mixed. Then once it's all mixed, I'm going to transfer that coffee mixture into the smaller baking dish. Now you want something that's not too deep. That way your hand can easily reach in there as you dip your savoiardi or lady finger cookies. Okay, so see, I'm pouring that into that smaller bowl right there. I want to make sure you put everything into that bowl. And then I'm going to start dipping my cookies into that coffee mixture. Now you want to work quickly, otherwise your cookie is going to fall apart. Now these are very absorbent cookies, and you want to use clean hands. These are very absorbent cookies, so you want to work quickly because they'll soak up a lot of that liquid, and then if you're not careful, they just fall apart. Now what I like to do is since this is a layered dessert, I like to layer my cookies go in one direction, and at the bottom of the pan there, of my baking dish to the right, I'm lining them up going crosswise, okay, next to each other but across the bowl. And then the second layer, after I've added my cream and cocoa powder, I'm going to do the second layer of cookies go in the opposite direction, like going vertically across the length of the bowl. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. This is how I layer it. That's my first layer. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take that cream and layer it over the cookies, all right? And you want to just put about half of this cream if you're using a 9x13 or bigger baking dish. If you're using a smaller dish, do a third of the cream because you're going to do cookies, cream, cocoa powder, cookies, cream, cocoa powder, cookies, cream, cocoa powder. That's if you're using a smaller bowl. But if you're using a big bowl like this, 2 layers is what you need. So half of the cream. So what I'm doing there is I'm using the back of my spatula to just even out that cream, make it cover the cookies into one layer and try and make it as even as you can. Make sure you get all the corners. You want all that goodness to go into every nook and cranny in there so that when you take a bite, you get a, bite of that cream as well. And it is so delicious, just heavenly. Now there I go. I spooned or just put dollops of that cream on there, and I want to start smoothing it out, make sure everything's nice and even. Get every corner, make sure everything's covered. And that's beautiful. And I wish you could just smell the aroma coming out of this kitchen at this time. It is divine. All right. Everything's covered. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use that fine mesh sifter that I have. I've put around 3 tablespoonfuls of cocoa powder in that sifter. And I'm just going to generously sift this layer of cheese, of cream, just to make sure everything's covered. And then I won't use the whole amount. I'm going to use half of it, and then the other half I'm going to use at the very last layer. So it should be cookies. If you're using a pan this big, cookies, cream, cocoa powder, and then again cookies, cream, and the last layer cocoa powder. And if you so wish, you can garnish it with some shaved chocolate like I'll do at the end. So we just want to sprinkle that over top, make it rain, let the cocoa come down. Make sure everything's nicely covered. Now, this dessert is best eaten cold, and I love mine especially the next day after all the flavors have gotten to know each other, and the cocoa says, "Hey, cream, I'm cocoa." The cream says, "Hey, cocoa, I'm cream," and the cookies say, "I'm here too." Everything's just nicely combined. Cookies have soaked in all that flavors. It is so good. Once you try this recipe, you'll never need to buy it again from the bakery or wherever it is you get it. Well, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start putting the second layers of cookies into that bowl. So what I'm doing to the left, I'm dipping the cookies, and right now I'm going to put them like vertically going towards the length of the bowl. And I've already done that. I went ahead and covered it, repeat the process, covered it with the cream. And then now I'm putting the final layer, which is a sprinkling of the cocoa up over the cream, the second layer of cream, okay? And you want to use a paper napkin or clean kitchen cloth to clean the edges of your bowl. You see that? There's a little bit of smearing from the cream, but just clean that up, no problem. And then we're going to take this, we're going to cover it, we're going to sprinkle some chocolate caramels up over it. That's optional. You can leave that part out. But I like just the full experience of cocoa and chocolate and all the good stuff in there. And then I am going to take some cling foil, cover the bowl, and refrigerate it. Okay, you can refrigerate it overnight. This is a very good dessert to make if you're having company the next day and you have a lot of things to cook and you don't want to be bothered with making dessert the last minute. It's, you cook it ahead of time. Next day you have dessert, and then it even tastes better the next day or two. Or three, if it survives that long. Because in my house, honey, this does not make it to the next day. And my neighbor got to enjoy this as well. I gave half to him. So a lot of times I get asked, well, how do you eat all this stuff and not get big? I do share. Share is caring. Sharing is caring. So I do share. So you just want to wipe your bowl and cover it up with some cling foil. That's my son's little hand. And put it into the refrigerator. Now this is a result. After it's been there, I left mine there overnight. Look at that. Just take a look at that, people. Look at that. See the chocolate curls up over the layer of cocoa powder, and you see the savoiardi cookies, the lady fingers over there, and I'm just going to cut through it. It's like, oh, so soft. I'm going to give you a taste. It's just wrong. How could I eat that and not give you a taste? You see the bottom layer there? That the cookie has absorbed that coffee. Look at that. Oh, sit on a spoon. Say, ah. Well, thank you so much for joining me this time. I hope you join me next time as I take your taste buds on another culinary safari. Thank you, and Karibu to Stella's Meza.
Yeah, 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 yeah.